challenges e-businesses face is, of course, in payments. And in our next panel discussion, you will hear from some key voices who will be discussing how you can enable payments. Allow me to introduce you to your speakers. Shashank Joshi, Managing Director, Money on Mobile. Shashank has over 20 years of professional experience in the areas of IT and ITES, outsourcing, transition, and management consulting. He has been a pioneer in the successful execution of merchant cash advance and merchant processing businesses through the offshore route. Our next speaker is Mr. Anand Bajaj, President and CIO of Yes Bank. Anand is an integral part of the Transaction Banking Group and is responsible for developing innovative products and solutions in the transaction banking space and works closely with CMS, trade, cards, branch banking, financial inclusion, relationships, and technology teams to foster innovation in the direct banking and other product delivery channels. Next, we have Don Bush, Vice President of Marketing, Kunt. In his role as VP of Marketing, Don works with online retailers, industry analysts, consultants, law enforcement, and trade associations to determine best practices, trends in the marketplace, and the latest trends in the e-commerce business. Don is a regular speaker on fraud topics at several industry events throughout Europe and USA. We have Srinivas Rao, the General Manager of India Payments at Amazon India, where he is responsible for leading Amazon's payment business. He brings with him over 15 years of experience in building e-commerce and payment products. Our moderator for this session is Sankarsan Banerjee, Managing Director, Technology, Accenture. Sankarsan has spent 18 years in the industry, over 10 of them in CXO roles. In the course of his career, Sankarsan has implemented complex websites, trading applications, e-commerce, and supply chain solutions. CIO Magazine has named him among the top 100 CIOs in India in 2012, and the World CIO Council ranked him 42nd in India's most influential CIOs. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome your panelists and moderator. I'll now hand the session over to you, Sankarsan.
Thank you. So, payments. Talk about money. Everybody wants to know how to make money. Certainly, everybody wants to know how to raise money, but we also have to collect the money from consumers to pay back the equity guys who gave you the money in the first place. So that's this part of the session. And, money, payment mechanisms in India have come a long way. When the e-commerce merchants first started, HSBC was the only bank that was supporting them through what they called telemarketing campaigns. And they would give a physical POS machine that you punched in the numbers into. And that was pretty much it. The only bank that would support it, and that too under very stringent rules, 6% commission, which is more than the margin of most trades. Since then, things have evolved a long way, and payment systems in India now process, I think, $8 billion a year now, probably 20 billion this year. So things have progressed quite a bit. So the first question I want to put to the panel is the question on everybody's minds post the $500 million of Chinese money that's come in. What is the future of wallets? Is a wallet a sustainable business model? Is a wallet a mere way of getting around regulations of two-factor? Is a wallet a genuine convenience to customers? How is the wallet progressing in India?
My name is Shashank Joshi. I represent Money on Mobile. So we have been a prepaid issuer licensed by the RBI and operating in the digital wallet space for about 4.5 years now. What I've seen over the last 4.5 years is the wallets maturing to what they are today. And it started with basically doing mobile top-ups and DTH top-ups, and probably we graduated from that to utility bill payments, and now the regulator has something which is called as Bharat Bill Payment Service, which is coming up. They have regulations on the payment bank. We are being allowed to do P2A and P2M remittance, which is person to account. The beneficiary has to have a bank account. and P2M is basically person to merchant. So the wallets have evolved over the last 4.5 years, and I'm not aware of how many of you know this, but the NPCI, the National Payments Corporation of India, did an announcement on something called as a unified payment interface, which they hope to launch in about 18 months. And the goal of that is anybody could send money to anybody. So without having a registered merchant, registered consumer kind of relationships under which we operate, or the open loop kind of thing where Anand operates in Yes Bank. And the wallets have evolved in a very, very big way over the last 4.5 years. And what NPCI is implementing, probably I think the world has not seen anywhere, and the world has to follow India to implement those kind of payments.
So now Amazon has recently launched payments in India, right? So one is, what prompted you? Why are you launching your own payments? The big elephant is COD, right? COD is a very big. Is COD one of the things that prompted you? Is the success of the wallets some of the things that prompted you? Because PayPal, entered India, burnt their fingers, went out. So why has Amazon come into payments?
Sure, thank you for that question. So what we believe is in offering the best experience for customers when they're shopping on Amazon. And a big part of that is the payment experience. And as you all know, the current issues with the payment infrastructure, two-factor authentication, all of that lead to challenges which we want to solve one by one. So we want to make it easy for customers, make it seamless in terms of their shopping experience and not come in the way of their shopping. And we have a long-term view where we say that as Amazon builds in India, we want to take the same payments experience, the convenience that we offer to our customers, and offer it to anywhere else where the customer wants to shop. So we want to take the same payments experience, the security of the instruments that they store in our system, and make that available in other websites. So we believe there's a big opportunity for us to build on the Amazon trust and brand that we have in India and bring it to all other third-party websites. So that's kind of our main reason. And we have gone about this very slowly and deliberately because we are not in a rush in trying to kind of build the biggest number of customers or the largest number of wallet users and so on. We want to get there, but we want to do it in a way that allows customers to use it in a seamless manner.
But is it a business for you, or is it a convenience that you offer as part of the Amazon shopping experience?
So obviously all ideas need to have a business value and a proposition to that. We want to offer it in a way that will make it convenient and a differentiated experience that will make customers use it for us. Just for folks in the crowd, we have a payments business that is worldwide. We already have an Amazon payments product in the US, in Germany, and in UK. So this is a natural extension of where Amazon is present. We want to also leverage the same brand and the customer base to launch payments as a business. So you'll see more things come out from Amazon in the payment space as we go along, because we want to solve the problem for the large set of consumers who are in India who are getting online. Thank you.
So, whenever we talk money, one of the other key concerns that everybody has, usually number one with people who haven't yet used it, and number two with people who have used it, is fraud. Everybody's worried that things, especially in India, what happens if fraud suddenly goes out of control? How are you controlling fraud? How are you controlling some of the liability issues around if somebody else defrauds you? So I was wondering if you had a comment on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Fraud is always an issue. It's where does the liability stand is really the biggest part of that issue. Is it with the merchant, the gateway, the processor, the bank? And that will determine what your risk is in taking any type of transaction, even COD, as you go through and as COD gets more advanced. I think the risk involved in some of the payments that you see is evolving. Wallets are evolving. The payments ecosystem everywhere around the globe is evolving. We do business we see payments from about 180 different countries a day. We see new payment types, new forms of payments, and that also brings the criminal element along with everything else. They're very fast, they're very sophisticated, they're very well networked, and they will find a way to steal from you, turn it into cash, and do their other bad things that they do. So I think anytime we start taking transactions, whether it's card not present or other methods, there's an element of fraud that we always have to be aware of. I think there's a second part to that, and it might be even as valuable as reducing the risk, and that is when you go through your payments process, there are literally hundreds of pieces of data that can be analyzed to tell you more about your customer, who they are, what device do they prefer to purchase on, what purchase product do they use, are they COD, do they buy X with Y, do they buy more on Tuesdays than Thursdays. All those different types of things give us a lot of information about our customer, and it's all going through your payment system. So we believe that there are 2 points to this. One is you reduce your risk, and two, with that risk reduction comes the opportunity to increase your sales based on the information that you get through that system. So we think it really is twofold in how that works.
Do you have any opinion on how risk has evolved in India? Is it worse than global average? Is it better than global average? Is it about the same?
I'm going to give you that great answer. It depends. It really depends on the market that you're in. Are you a digital goods service? Are you a hard goods that needs to be delivered? What kind of payments do you accept? All those things play into how much risk is associated with your particular business. I think fraud is evolving as fast as the payments industry. I think there are other elements outside of India that are starting to push onto most economies. As you might be aware, EMV is going to be instituted as a regulatory compliance issue for the U.S. The U.S. is arguably number 2 or number 3 as far as e-commerce. And so what we have seen everywhere that EMV has been instituted is fraud has moved from the POS counterfeiting type fraud online, and it's come online en masse. And so fraud from one of the largest economies is going to be pushed online, which will affect a global economy as we know it. And so we're going to continue to see that development. We're going to continue to see them get faster, smarter, better at what they do.
So EMV reminds me, one of the pushes or one of the wins in the sail behind Apple Pay is this move to EMV. And they're saying while you're converting all your POS machines, you might as well make them NFC capable and Apple Pay capable. And in India, there is no such push. In India, EMV has happened before Apple Pay launched. So any of you on the panel would respond. How do you see Apple Pay? iPhones have made a huge mark in India. I mean, they've grown from a minuscule, nearly nothing market share to 8% of the global market, of the overall market, and nearly 42% of the upper end market. So to that extent, Apple has become quite relevant in India in the last 2 years. So does Apple Pay, do you see that evolving in India at any stage? Or, you know, where is the push going to come from? Amazon. You're the traditional competitor to Apple Pay.
So we definitely feel that new payment methods will evolve as they come, and what will drive their usage is the acceptance of that payment method, right? So the statistics about iPhones being sold in India and so on are all great, but I think you have to look at what is the usage of those phones other than the primary use cases, right? So what you need to have a large acceptance of the payment method is a bunch of merchants who accept that. And to accept that, I think you need to have a strong drive for people to use that as a payment method. So I think there's still some way off in terms of kind of acceptability of that as a payment method and customers using that versus everything else. Because it's very easy to pull out your wallet and pay cash for it. Why would you want to do something different?
So you don't see any other, like US had the EMV trigger for merchants to start accepting, you don't see any similar trigger in India?
I think things are changing in India. I think there's a lot of regulatory kind of focus as well to make kind of payments easier and new thresholds and so on to come forth. So I think it will evolve over time, but I don't, at least in my opinion, don't see a single reason why it will kind of take off. but I'm open to the panel to see if they have.
Interestingly, the MCX lobby pushed it back in US. And when it comes to India, there is a huge crowd which is moving towards cash on delivery and will remain there for a while. The key focus will be on solving for better and improvements in cash on delivery models, rather than the minuscule % of people who bring iPhone, and all of them will have to change the hardware and get onto a new hardware. At least my iPhone 5s works well. For another 2 years, I see it being with me well, behaving well. So I want to migrate onto that at least. And if key users in payment industry have multiple other options to pay, and who do not go on to retail outlets essentially to make payments, only left to the e-commerce divisions of payment, they're better off doing what they do today.
I wanted to ask you about cash on delivery and how you think that will evolve in India. I mean, it is a huge part today of the e-commerce industry. In fact, some say it is an unsustainably huge part of the e-commerce industry in India.
Sure. So let's look at it this way. India and the mindset that we have here, I heard Srinivas say that Amazon does cash on delivery only in China other than India. We went on whole hog solving for getting consumers online first, and a great job done. E-commerce penetration is amazing. But we created another challenge, which is cash on delivery. To my mind, it's a big problem which is yet to be handled. And I understand from e-commerce friends that it takes about 60, 62 days to get back the monies. The reconciliations takes their own time. It's not their core job to handle money, and nor is it of the logistics company who do the cash backhauling. And there are innovations coming in that field, like GharPay, who goes and collects money. The whole trick is in seeing how convenient alternate options can you give on the cash on delivery. Now, there is a parallel work happening in India, which is on domestic remittance, and there is a roadmap to evolve that solution to digitize the cash into a wallet, which goes with ease into an e-commerce use case. So while the wallets today allow you to transfer money from a credit card, debit card, net banking, and load it and then go and pay where you pay, what good would it be when you try and move cash onto the wallet and allow the cash to be used digitally? So I actually was briefly chatting with Srinivas, asking him, what would it take the e-commerce guys to, instead of just make analytics-based offer to cross-sell and give 20% discount, you push customers to pay digitally and give him 10% discount one time and see how he can convert his cash into a digital wallet. So effectively, I see it as a big challenge to control back now. Not that the Indians are used to, and any new entrant in India will have to offer cash on delivery for a while long more.
So, very interesting input. Cash on delivery is what you have been hearing all while. I've been promoting something which is called cash before delivery. And we are integrating the money on mobile wallet or the money on mobile payment gateway to the e-tailing sites. And the e-tailing sites will get settled like they get settled on the credit card transaction. And your customer pays you in advance. So you are more protected in terms of getting your money on time, getting it electronically. The reconciliations can happen faster. And there have been issues of rejections in COD, because e-commerce buying is typically 70 to 80% satisfying the want rather than the need. So once that impulse is down, the customer is out of it, he changes his mind and he refuses the COD. So cash before delivery is what we have been promoting. And I have a friend here from Chandigarh. Is a very interesting site called alugobi.com. So they sell vegetables online and they sell it to societies and deliver it there. We are promoting this whole concept of cash before delivery. So you have a wallet, you authorize the payment on the site and then order the merchandise. So typically in the perishable kind of inventory, which is aloo gobi and vegetables. So it serves a great deal there.
So just to add on this, I think just what COD has done is greatly expanded the customer base for lots of companies, right? Because it's very easy for people to say, let me look at the product and then pay. So it has solved for that unknown factor if they are buying online. And as the market expands and more customers get used to buying online, we think that COD will continue to be there. So what Amazon or other players need to do is to make it easier and better for customers to use it, and internally to kind of manage all the defects that exist in either rejection or in reconciliation and so on. So we'll have to work harder to kind of make sure that the customers get they want, because our belief is that we should allow the customers to pay in whatever form they want, and we need to get better at servicing them over time. For example, some of the things that we do is we also offer the customer the ability to use his card when we go to deliver the product and say, would you like to pay for this product using a card? And there are a lot of devices that you can hook up to your phone and then swipe a card. So it's all about making it convenient for the customer. It's not that the customer doesn't want to use an electronic payment method. Sometimes they're just, not thinking about it or saying, okay, let me get the product and then pay for it. So we always want to incentivize the customer to kind of use what he or she prefers. And to the point about offering an incentive for people to switch, what we have seen is, people switch, but that's a very temporary switch, because there is some incentive to use a card and a cashback that goes along with it, but it's not long-lasting. We would rather have customers buy more from us using whatever payment method they use, and we need to do a better job servicing them. That's how we look at it.
So we have a little bit of a compressed time schedule, so I'll ask a last question to the panel. There has been much excitement by the government about payment banks and how that will change the payment landscape in India, and it's the next greatest thing after sliced bread. 100 people have applied in various kinds of forms. 70 people have applied for Payments Bank. There's a lot of excitement. So I'll ask you first, do you think your life will change with the Payments Bank?
Well, my life with the payment bank, without payment bank, will not be much different. But the consumers who are in the interiors of the country, who are in rural India, will get an option. They'll have an option rather than parking their money with some chit funds and stuff like that. The money will be parked into a regular payment bank account. With the payment bank, there are quite a lot of restrictions, but it gives us entry into the mainstream banking domain, and that is a huge plus. The other thing that will happen with the payment bank is lot of money from the interiors of India, because the statistics right now talks about 600 million unbanked people in the country, and 600 million by anybody's imagination is a big number. So the payments bank will allow all these people to participate in the mainstream banking and proper utilization of money rather than parking their funds elsewhere.
So Anand, do you think a payment bank is just, dressing on the same turkey?
Yeah, so to be on statistics, it also says 95% of the accounts which are opened in financial inclusion drive in the last 5 years, including the recent Jan Dhan accounts, are dormant. So what am I going to do with these 600 million customers? I'm not sure. That said, I wish all the best to the friends who are running up to this, 40 good, delightful friends. We know them very closely, very personally. We work with them as business correspondents. So when we turned around to the 4 consultants, without naming them, the top 4, we did the math, and at the end of it, they said the lesser the number of saving accounts we open, the more profitable we are. So I said, then what are you going to do with it? I said, domestic remittance. So he said, why don't you do it without being a payments bank? Because your stack of compliance, technology, audits that you will have to suffer is a good cost to you, and that is only if you're going to defer, build year on year, keep passing it to the next year, no one is going to buy you, which is what you are probably running up for. So the valuation game to me sounds like little blindfold play by someone who will come and buy a payment bank, which is what few of the friends articulated. But that said, let's see if there is some good which happens, which probably I'm oblivious and ignorant to today. I will see it unfold.
I think one of the things that you have to be considerate of is however that process regulation changes. I think to your point, when you've got accounts that lay dormant for any period of time and they're not checked on regularly by the consumer, fraudsters come in and they can wreak havoc, and nobody knows the difference because it's an account that's now being used. How do they validate because the customer's not complaining? There's lots of different ways that they will come in and do things to steal. And so that is another issue when you start changing the entire process from what it is today to new things.
Yeah, and I would say that, similar to Anand, I think we want to watch and see how payments banks evolve, because I think for the people who want to use the money that they have, there are other avenues to do it as well. So we want to see how it will be used for different purposes. The goal of trying to get a lot of people who are banked is a great goal. We want to see how that plays out over time.
So I think we should now open the panel to questions from the audience. I see one person there.
My question is probably more for Srinivas.
Would you mind telling us your name first?
My name is Arvind. My question is for Srinivas. I was just wondering, do you think there's scope for something like what Alipay does in India, which is, as I understand it, what Alipay does is they will only debit a customer's account and credit it to the merchant only after the customer gives a go-ahead and receives the product and verifies it is okay. So do you see something like that happening in India?
So I think there are similar models that apply in India. I think the one thing to remember in India is e-commerce is fairly new, and it is very highly regulated by the RBI. There are rules about money that a e-commerce or an online platform would get needs to be deposited into a certain account, and money needs to be paid out to the merchant in a specified date. So I think within those guidelines, there is value to kind of creating a similar functionality, and I think it will help in places where the buyer and the seller may not have a trusted relationship before, and you want to enable that. So we definitely see a value in that, and you will see more solutions come in that space that need to operate within the guidelines imposed by the RBI, which is something you have to adhere to.
Hi, my name is Shanu Singh. Recently, and start from the day itself, there have been a lot of talk about, and we read there, in the articles all the time, that there has been a lot of shift from the laptop or desktop users to the mobile users when they're doing e-commerce transactions. And I know how true that data is, but there's been a lot of data which has been, there in the newspapers and articles everywhere. So the talk that tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, a lot of the mobile users are actually doing transactions. So I know how much those transactions are happening. Now, given that people are transacting, given that the speed of the internet on the 2G devices they get on a 3,000 or 4,000 rupees smartphone, which they have, what's the experience when consumer does a complete transaction from search or comparing the products, then selecting, checking out, and doing the payment completely, and then the entire thing. I'm sure it's not as smooth as you would do in a laptop and with a broadband connection. So how does the payment experience affect the transaction, the transaction time? And then coming to the fraud, how do you prevent fraud in a mobile setup? Because the laptops and desktops, there are security softwares which are they are there, but in the mobile, I personally I may be not knowing, but are there any software or any anti-fraud softwares in the mobile which are there? So I've asked a larger question, probably addressing to an entire audience here.
So let me take the speed issue. We have been discussing this, as part of Accenture, we've been doing some studies on this. It is actually a misnomer that India mobile internet speeds are low. There is a lot of call drops, but that is because of spectrum issues. But the speeds on the average in India is about the same as the US. And you can see that by the adoption of Indian video. India is the world's largest consumer of mobile video. More people watch cricket on mobile in India than anywhere else in the world. More people watch YouTube on mobile in India than anywhere else in the world. And there are, there's a lot of data available on what the average bandwidth is. And
so my question was regarding the tier 2, tier 3, where there's still the Wi-Fi penetration is still very less. So on GPRS connection, you still can't watch, given the 2G. So Wi-Fi smartphone in a urban center, fine. You can watch everything. it is as fast as a laptop or a desktop. But if you're talking about a GPRS connection in tier 2, tier 3, can they still have the same experience given the speed? I mean, it's not even 1 Mbps.
So actually, most of India is no longer GPRS. Most of India is now 3G. In fact, now most telcos don't offer 2G plans anymore. And the average speed, as I said, we still think of India as a slow country, but Indian broadband has evolved quite a bit. And most of cricket watching does not happen in the big cities where there are large televisions where you can watch it. A lot of cricket watching does happen in tier 2 cities. We don't see it as much of an issue, and ongoing it gets to be less and less of an issue. Mobile payments or mobile usage in broadband is progressing very rapidly. From a very small base, it has grown to nearly 65 million users. It's expected to grow almost double every year. And the speed issue, as I said, primarily there is some call drop issue, which is spectrum, which hopefully the auctions will handle. And this is based on data that we've done, the studies that Accenture has done across multiple locations in India. In fact, in tier 1 cities, the spectrum and the speed is poorer than most tier 2 cities because of overcrowding. On the second question, maybe you have an opinion on the fraud question.
You bet. I think as we've seen, at least in the US and the UK and North America, several parts of Latin America and in certain parts of Asia, Australia, as the speeds have improved, what we actually saw was consumer behavior changed as speeds improved. I used the phone to communicate, then I used it to search, now I've used it to transact. And that's really what you're talking about, is how fast are they moving to that transaction stage. And it does happen with spectrum, it does happen with speeds, the better we can get there. The consumer is training along at the speed of our spectrum. So that's one area that I think is encouraging. The second thing is you mentioned fraud. In many respects, fraud mitigation on a mobile is better and more accurate than on a laptop or a desktop. There are signals, there are pieces of data that we can look at that give us more awareness, and that's what fraud is. I mean, fraud mitigation really is, what is your insight? How much can you see of what's happening, and what can you do to either mitigate that or promote it? And in the mobile space, there's often better signals than there are using a laptop. You get less proxies, you get less, is this person really where they are? Those types of things start to be less and less on a mobile, because if you're not standing by the ATM and yet you're saying there's an ATM transaction, I can ping your mobile and go, you're nowhere near an ATM, so let's not let that one go through. There's lots of examples, but I wouldn't say that mobile is any more fraudulent, and in many respects, it's easier to detect what's going on through a mobile device.
So I think we're out of time, but if there is one last question, we can take it.
My question is to Srinivasan is, in case of a COD transaction, what is the percentage of cancellation of orders do you normally see? And how do you, going forward, see to restrict these cancellations? Because I think it's a lot of, exchequer that, cost that comes on the delivery side, and especially in case of large appliances and all, when this cancellation happens.
Sure. So I don't have the exact numbers about what the rejections are. So let's assume it's in the high single digits. What we are doing is to look at customer buying behavior over a period of time to ensure that this is a customer who has successfully bought before, and that data gets built over time, right? So then we are fairly confident that once this order is delivered, it has an acceptance rate. We are also trying to think about different ways of proactively checking with the customer in terms of the order that was placed and ensuring that it was the correct order. There's still, you give the benefit of doubt and the customers do change their mind, or it's the wrong size, wrong color. So I think that's part of the business, so we have to kind of manage that. So the goal is to look at what are the things that we control and try to have checks in place that allow us to ensure guaranteed delivery with lower rejection rates. But that's something that will evolve over time. The goal is to drive it down.
Okay, we'd like to thank our panelists and moderator for a very informative and interesting session. And to do the honors, I'd request Amit Jalani to please come up on stage. So we have mementos of appreciation that are just making their way over here. We'd first like to thank Sankarsan. Sorry, these are personalized, so I want to get the right order here. So first, thank you, Shashank Joshi. Thank you very much. Anand Bajaj. Don Bush. Thank you, Srinivas Rao. And thank you to our moderator, Sankarsan Banerjee. Ladies and gentlemen, one big round of applause for our amazing panelists. We will be moving directly into our next session, e-commerce marketplace, but allow me 2 minutes as we ensure that the speakers, we can just do the shuffle of the speakers. So just give us 2 minutes and we'll be back with the e-commerce marketplace panel discussion. So first we have Jasprit Brinda, we have Jasprit Brinda, the independent entrepreneur. We have Ambarish Murthy, founder, Pepperfry.com. We have Vivek Biyani, director, Future Group. Falguni Nair, founder and CEO at Nykaa.com. And we have Amit Jalani, co-founder and CEO of My Solitaire and founder and CEO of Lux Effect. And our moderator for this panel is Neville Taraporvala, Senior Business Leader in Consumer, Internet, and Online. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving your panelists and moderator a big round of applause.